Ron's get off the couch, get off the tennis courts, get off the golf course, get off the boats. Bye week is over. Monday Night Football. What more could you want? Let's get it. Let's go. Have some fun.
Look at uptown people like yeah. People up in Britain like yeah. Mid-city folks like yeah. People downtown man yeah.
No, Ron, no problem. You don't come for that. You come for Jay. You come for George. And we're here for you. Once a week. Not every day, not all the time. Once a week. Jay, how you doing?
I'm doing great, baby. It's Friday. We got some cooler weather coming this weekend. We got live music back in New Orleans. We got the Saints about to go 4-2. Spoiler alert. I'm picking the Hoodats maybe for the first time this week. Let's get right into it, Georgie.
Jay, last week we both know the Saints didn't play. And when that happens, you still fall into the 12 o'clock routine. You turn on football, but instead of Fox 8, we put on Red Zone channel, and you got to watch everyone play. And normally I flip back and forth, and I have a pretty good eye on what's going on around the NFL. When you follow the Saints, you just, even if you're strictly following the Saints, you still know what's going on around the league. But this Sunday really gave us a good chance to look at everyone else and what they were doing. And here's what I want to tell you, what I had in mind to talk about. Okay, number one, before we get started, though, let me just say this. Jay, you had your po' boy reviews. And Who was the best one?
That would be Parkway.
Parkway. Okay, so Parkway is like buy. You know how PTI does buy or sell? Buy means Parkway, okay? And who is your sell?
Some American seafood place on the West Bank.
Okay, we'll call it West Bank Po' Boy. So Parkway or West Bank Po' Boy? So Kyler Murray, MVP, Parkway or West Bank Po' Boy?
I don't know. I think you got to give Derrick Henry some consideration there, but Murray, he had a good start to his career, and this year was a big, a lot of people looking for him to take the next step, with people starting to whisper about if Cliff Kingsbury's the guy. So he's got to be right up there. I'm going to buy Kyler Murray MVP.
Yeah, I'd buy a 2-foot po' boy on that one. The Cardinals are good. They're not that good. You have an old A.J. Green. You have Christian Kirk dropping everything. You have a really good Hopkins. You have a very makeshift offensive line, a very subpar running back committee. You have to, when you watch Kyler Murray, it's amazing what he's doing. He is so accurate. He's making everybody miss, and he's playing in a relatively small market in Arizona and doesn't get the recognition he deserves. And he hasn't been doing it for that long, and he's not that Baker Mayfield type of guy that you can really put on 1,000 commercials and he'll make you laugh. He's just quiet about his business, and he's sensational. He's beating teams how Allen Iverson used to beat him with the 76ers. He's just, it's a team sport. I get that.
I wouldn't discount his weapons, though. DeAndre Hopkins, Rondell Moore's very athletic, shifty rookie receiver. Christian Kirk, who you mentioned. A.J. Green still has a little bit of tread on the tires. So he's definitely got some guys to throw to, but I know where you're going with this.
If Tua had those options, they wouldn't be scoring over 30 points a game.
No, Tua's a bust.
Oh, well, okay. Well, that's option number 3. But to me, the one thing Tua
is West Bank probably.
We can jump straight to that one. Yeah, I have Tua as that too. And
for the fans out there, we're so inch wide, mile deep on the Hoodats, and we know y'all love it that way. We really get into it like no other Saints podcast. I don't care. I don't listen to any other Saints podcast because we got the goods right here. But we really get deep on the Saints. But we want to talk a little NFL this week coming off the bye.
They about it. They get it. And we'll go back on Tua. Why is he a West Bank Po' Boy?
Um, I think it's very disappointing for Dolphins fans, whoever they are. My guy Willie, who owns Singleton's Uptown, one of the most underrated food stores in New Orleans. The banh mi po' boy is just delicious. It's in the Black Pearl. He's got a shrine to the Dolphins. He has a Dolphins tattoo on his right arm. I was driving the Black Pearl the other day. I saw Willie outside. I saw that Dolphins tattoo. I said, Willie, what's going on with the Dolphins? He said, quarterback, we don't have one. We picked Tua before Justin Herbert, and he's not doing it. And all of the hype, you remember tank for Tua, and this guy just hasn't produced. He's a good person, and you want to pull for him. He had flashes against the Jaguars last week, but it just doesn't look like he's going to be the guy. He looks like just a guy. And here the Dolphins are, once again, post Dan Marino, looking for that quarterback.
Next one, Dan Campbell is a complete psychopath. Parkway Bakery or West Bank Po' Boy?
Oh, I might go Guy's Po' Boy, somewhere in between. I'll go Parkway. The guy, I'm going to give it to Dan Campbell. A slight bias considering he spent all these years in New Orleans, but we are so accustomed to coach speak and coaches in every sport across the board getting up at the podium and saying what they think, the media, it's just regurgitated BS, right? And Dan Campbell, from his introductory press conference in Detroit, gets up there and speaks from the heart. And he took a lot of flack for talking about biting kneecaps and this team is going to fight. But for me, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Be who you are as a head coach. We talked about it with Joe Judge, maybe trying to be a little bit like Bill Belichick and not just being himself. I give Dan Campbell credit for being himself. I think we're so, speaking of knee-jerk reaction when it comes to looking at things in a vacuum and what did you do for me this week? What did you do for me this week? When a situation like Detroit, I know fans up there probably have a little bit of impatience waiting for this team to be successful because they've really been through the ringer. But this isn't something that's going to turn around in 7 games or a year. It's going to take some time if you're going to do it the right way. And they have fought. Unfortunately, they've been on the wrong end of it. With the exception of the Cincinnati game last week, was the first time that they got blown out all year. So I'm with Dan Campbell. I ride with him. I'm pulling for him.
Man, that's a one-way trip to the West Bank. Are you crazy? Dude, they haven't won a game. And the more they haven't even had a lead yet this year. And the more they keep losing, the crazier that speech sounds. Speaking from the heart, that's fine. Being yourself, that's fine. Listen to what he said. By all means, do what you want. But when you're talking that crazy, the last 30 seconds of his presser, it sounds like someone put a microphone in Gola prison and recorded a prisoner. That's crazy. Like his ceiling would be a guy that is a mastermind disciplinarian or a rah-rah defensive line coach. That guy has no business being the head coach, and they keep losing. And then you go back to that speech, it becomes more entertaining. And he's worth monitoring because there was a mass exodus last year from Saints to Lions as players and coaches. Glenn, Hill, the tight end, Anzalone. We don't miss him. He's playing terrible over there. It's just there's a mass exodus from Saints to the Lions. And so they're worth monitoring.
As my father-in-law used to say, we'll see.
We'll see. Well, how long were the Raiders saying that about Jamarcus when he was just deplorable out there? And I was like, well, what more do you want to see? Dan Campbell doesn't have it for me.
What about the not the who dats, but the who days the team Detroit played? Joe Burrow's a guy, another guy that Southeastern Louisiana is keeping a close eye on. The connection with Jamar Chase looks real. Talk about a great story to see them have success. Zach Taylor, a coach that is more Parkway than West Bank Po Boys. Talk about them, George.
I love that coach. And let's talk about the Chargers coach. Talk about great coaches. Staley in Los Angeles, coach of the year. That was another type item I wanted to bring up. Because so many coaches, it's like you say, Jay, they just regurgitate what everyone else says, and few actually speak their mind. And that guy Staley, when he's giving a press conference or talking to his team or talking anything about the Chargers, it's so heartfelt, and you could tell that he cares, and I love to see that. You have guys like, I don't want to trash Urban Meyer, but you can just tell his heart's not in it. And Ron Rivera just goes about his business. They've been doing it for so long, it doesn't get their adrenaline going. But Staley, man, that's the guy I can really get behind. Bengals are fun, a lot of great weapons, like you said, but it all comes back to Joe Burrow. You know, last year it was debatably criminal to put him out there in front of that offensive line. I remember last year we were side texting routinely. It's like, gosh, it's like, what are you doing to this guy's future if you're putting him behind that offensive line? He's a body bag, you know, Pacquiao, Mayweather, Tyson all getting their shots at him, and then he inevitably tears his ACL. It's like, gosh, it's a shame that his future may be ruined because he wasn't properly protected. But now they have it protected. They have weapons, and it's a fun team to watch. And, you know, the question will be for a decade, who's the best quarterback of that draft class, Herbert or Burrow? And, you know, right now it looks like Herbert, but there's a lot of time for that to go back and forth like the old Chris Paul and Darren Williams debate.
Yeah, they asked Aaron Rodgers what he told Burrow after the game a couple of weeks ago, and he said, you need a slide. If you remember, there was a play where he rolled left, ran the ball, and he did like a little John Elway helicopter, fell on his head, and looked like he'd be going to the nearest hospital for concussion stuff. And he got up, came back out next drive. Personally, I can't get enough of this guy. He walks in looking like a CPA or looking like he's working on the Hill in D.C., and then just to see his competitive nature in the games come out and how cerebral of a quarterback he is. And I think what makes this guy great is just 1-2 competitiveness. It's who you want pulling the trigger if you're Cincinnati fans. George, I watched the Thursday night game, watched the Sunday night game, obviously a couple weeks ago with the Bucks. And I guess one thing that was a takeaway from watching football this week is, like, I don't know if there's anybody out there that if the Saints were playing, that it's like they don't belong on the field with X team, with the Buffalo Bills that they're playing at Thanksgiving, with the Bucks that they're playing after Seattle. I think the Saints, if they play right, they can play with all these teams. To me, the Bucks look good. Brady's going to make the plays in clutch time to put them in good position. But I come away from this bye week and watching a lot of games and watching teams in our division and thinking that, you know, maybe the Saints can go 10-7, 11-6, especially with all these guys coming back. And who knows what happens after that. So
talk about yo-yo. I agree with you there. The only team I'd really bet against the Saints to lose would be the Rams. That's just a team that we match up poorly against, have a poor track record against, and Little Sean has Big Sean's number. That being said, I like our chances versus most teams. The Buccaneers, who are probably your number one contender from the NFC to go to the Super Bowl, I'd say we're also the most likely team to knock them out of the playoffs. If you're the Packers or Cardinals, you're going to want to see the Saints play the Buccaneers at some point in the playoffs because we know them so well. And we've had their number in the regular season, even under Tom Brady. So I love our chance versus everybody. But then again, don't forget, we just lost to the Giants. We're a yo-yo team. Sean breathed it into existence because we can play with the big dogs and then lose to the Chihuahuas.
I'm with you. But hopefully, 3-2 was more due to figuring out kind of who we are on offense and all the guys that were injured and it was more about just staying afloat. And then after this bye week, really hitting stride and forget the term yo-yo ever existed.
Right. And getting into that, Sean Payton, not only after the week after the bye week, but the 4 games following every bye week, he has a phenomenal record. Way over 750 on winning percentage in those 4 games after the bye. It's either 4-0 or 3-1, which is stupendous. And bringing back healthy key players. We have a tough upcoming schedule. But like you just said, we have an upward trajectory, and I really like where we're heading, and it's all going to come down to Jameis. It's all going to come down to Jameis. He's the make or break player for this team to go. Last one, Jay, before we go all Hoodats, Parkway Bakery or West Bank Bakery or West Bank Po' Boy Shop. Panthers staying in the playoff race.
That's West Bank Bakery. I think they were probably the most fraudulent 3-0 team out there. They played a Saints team that basically shouldn't have taken the team charter to Carolina. Then they played the Jets the week previous. I forget who they played week 3, but to me, this is an 8-9 team. Sam Darnold is looking more like Jets Sam Darnold. And I think I'm looking forward to the Saints getting another shot at that team, beating them, and the NFC South coming down to Saints Bucks.
That was my big takeaway. When they have Christian McCaffrey, they're 3-0. Without him, they're 0-3. So their offense goes from running with McCaffrey as your priority, and then your number 2 option is the passing threat with their good wide receivers and Darnold. But when McCaffrey's out and the primary threat becomes Darnold to the passing in the passing game, and Chuba Hubbard becomes the option number 2, that is such a significant downgrade, and they just can't hang. And let that be a red flag. You go to Destin, you go to the beach, they have that red flag, warning. Look what the Panthers have done to Christian McCaffrey when you use him so much. And I know you get in these competitive games, you got to do what you got to do to win, but you got to think about the war, not each battle. So don't put Alvin Kamara as your kick returner, your punt returner, running between the tackles, because inevitably he's going to get banged up. He's going to get banged up like he did 3 years ago and then became way less effective. So less is more in the regular season of using your running backs, because you really have to – you need them. You need your star running backs, because look what happens to the Panthers without McCaffrey. Something similar could happen to the Saints if anything would ever happen to our boy, Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Christian McCaffrey is a guy that really can't seem to stay on the field. And last year, he missed a bunch of games. All of a sudden this year, he's hurt again. He was the guy at Stanford where a guy like Alvin Kamara started at Alabama, went to Tennessee, wasn't really used at Tennessee. So hopefully he's got some more miles than McCaffrey. But I think that's something, George, that we've highlighted in this podcast. But hopefully Sean Payton and the offensive staff are taking a hard look at how they've used Kamara thus far and all the touches that they've given him. And how can they give him a break, especially this year? You're not playing 16 games. You're playing 17 games, and we all know how critical he is to this offense's and this team's success. So I would love it. Crystal Ball George talked about running back. Crystal Ball George talked about going out and trading for a running back. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. What about Ronald Jones within the division? I don't think the Bucs would ever trade within the division, but get somebody that can bang in between the tackles, that can carry the ball 5 to 10 times, that can give Alvin a little break. And just, unfortunately, we're playing the law of averages. And in order for the Saints to go, Alvin's got to go. And we need to make sure that he's healthy all the way through.
Well, he's got to go, but you got to put him in the right spots. I'm not saying bench him and put him on ice forever, but there are some needless shots there where other guys could take it. Harris, Montgomery, Zigbo.
mentioned more to the effect of, in order for the Saints to be successful, he's got to be healthy. So you gotta give him a break, and not he can't be that Derrick Henry bell cow, slam it up in between Throckmorton and Ruiz.
Now get McCoy back. Last question, NFL. Most satisfying teams to beat outside the division.
I'm going to go Dallas Cowboys. You know, they've had a taste of success, and it's a team that we haven't really talked about, but I would never tell Dallas Cowboys fans or say this outside to anybody else, but they do look kind of good. They do look good. They got Dak back. They got weapons at receiver. Defense is playing really well. We all know about Diggs. We've heard about him. So it seems like they're Jerry Jones. He's probably as excited as he has been on possibly hoisting that Lombardi one more time before he has to say la vie. But I just get fatigued of hearing about the Cowboys. Obviously, you got Sean Payton's history. But for me, this year, I would like no other than putting it to the Cowboys, and I'd like a first-round exit, whether it's from the Saints or from anybody else, to get the Cowboys out of the picture.
I don't have an English to French dictionary in front of me, or French to English, but might not be the correct usage of c'est la vie. That means it's all good. Okay, c'est la vie. Doesn't matter what I did. Won't worry about it. I'm dead. So moving on. Well, I was going to say the Rams, Vikings, and Seahawks are the teams that when you beat, it's just not like beating, say, the Giants or the Redskins, Washington football team, or the Lions. It's a bit more of a significant win because of our horrific experiences versus them, especially at Seattle. That we've had such a bad track record with them, like the god-awful Marshawn Lynch touchdown. And that's why that Teddy Bridgewater win 2 years ago that nobody thought would come out on top was so special. And now it's not us without our starting quarterback. It's the Seahawks. And we go up and play Geno Smith. Their starting running back looks like it's going to be your boy, who you have a personal, phenomenal, blessed relationship with, Rashard Penny.
Yeah, Penny's a guy from San Diego State that when I was at West Point, we played in a bowl game, and he had a phenomenal, I think, junior or senior season. Came out first-round pick, and he's been bust with a capital B. You keep a close eye on those guys that you interacted with or came across in college. And there's no question that he has ability, but he's in year 3 or 4 now, George, and he just hasn't put it together. So it's an opportunity for him, who according to you, has been running his mouth a little bit about getting his opportunities, time to shine. It sounds like he's finally ready to prove that he can produce, but it ain't the week this week for Rashad. So I think I feel pretty good about our chances. No doubt that's an electric atmosphere up there in Seattle. And, you know, they have their backs against the wall. They're going to be doing, obviously, everything they can do to scheme up to win this game. But I think this is a team that is scarred, hurt, and ripe for the taking. So I think it's important for the Saints to maybe get up early and just keep their foot on the gas and go out of there 4-2.
They did give the Steelers a run for their money on the road, Sunday Night Football, and I don't know how much of that game you watch. Geno Smith looked like he was just impersonating Russell Wilson. He wasn't trying to play his own style. It was as though he was trying to mimic Russell Wilson. And going back to Coach Judge's coaching style, you got to play it how the best to your style. You got to do you. Got to be the best you can be. You can't try to copycat someone else. And I feel like Geno just kept thinking, what would Russell Wilson do? Or how would Russell Wilson elude this and then make the play? And it just never really was pleasing to the eye. But they're at home. This is still a team with a lot of good talent, a lot of great talent. It won't be a team that we can just walk all over. However, when you look back at the game 2 years ago, punt return, touchdown, Deontay Harris. Von Bell, scoop and score, touchdown. We have an identity, the Saints. We know who we are. When the Seahawks don't have Russell Wilson, do they know who they are? When they don't have Chris Carson running the ball 30 times, do they know who they are? And that'll be, to me, the difference in this game, in that we know our strengths and weaknesses and then will find a way to prevail, whereas the Seahawks are just going to end up getting in their own way. They'll make some dangerous plays here and there because, Metcalf, Lockett, Jamal Adams having a rough year. They have talent, yet they don't really have an identity, whereas we have both.
Yeah, I think if you watch that game against the Rams a couple weeks ago when Russell Wilson got hurt, there's a 99-yard drive by Geno where he looked good. He looked sharp, and then he was trying to lead him down for the tying score or the winning score late. His receiver fell down, and you could see the look of dejection on Geno's face. I felt bad for him as a first-round pick who hasn't lived up to it. He spent 3 years in Seattle and hasn't had a snap in 3 years. You could tell that he had immense pressure on himself in that situation to produce. He was all fired up. I had the game on, but didn't watch it closely against Pittsburgh. But this is a guy that there will be opportunities again for this Saints secondary that is top 5, I believe, in takeaways, interceptions, specifically with 9 among NFL teams. So look for your boy, P.J. Williams, Paulson Adebo, to make a big play in this game where hopefully we can get a pick six or something like you mentioned a couple of years ago when Deontay brought one back. But George, really in the first 5 weeks of this season, I feel like in a lot of games we've been talking about how we need a Deontay touchdown. We need the defense to have a pick six or something, and then to run the ball and play that hard-nosed offense. Saints are top 5 in rushes. They have as many, I think they're top 6 in touchdown passes, but number 32 in the league in pass attempts. But for me, I think this is a game with everybody coming back that you see the Saints start to – it's going to be a little bit more even as far as pass run. You got Traquan coming back. Hopefully McCoy and Armstead are back. And you don't need the funky, weird plays to win the game. I think this is just a game that you can go up there, play your brand of football, and hopefully get a nice win that can be a launching pad for the rest of the season.
The guys who are back, Teron Armstead, Eric McCoy, Marcus Davenport, Quan Alexander, Traquan Smith, Nick Vanette, Ken Crowley, who may not be active, Chase Hansen, who certainly won't be active. That's a beautiful list. Who's not on that list, though, is our boy Harris. We're not going to have Deontay Harris this week with that hamstring injury. It sounds like we want to clickbait either. And going back to Bird, we'll see if that's actually better for Jameis in the long run without ever being taken out. He always stays in rhythm. I understand Bird's question when he said that. And maybe it'll have some advantageous effects. Jay, bye week for all of us. I understand. Geno Smith, first round draft pick, maybe a second round out of West Virginia.
Oh, shoot. Country
All right,
road.
Coach, I ain't mad at you, dog. You good at what you do. But I don't have any more questions for you, Coach. I got all these questions from the Rons. They have so many. They got all these personal questions. First one, I'm going to answer this one. It's from Edwin Ambrose. Hey, Big. Do Rons get a bye week? Well, yeah, you got your boy Jay making c'est la vie errors. You got your boy Ron, who's sick with not the flu. You got Vegas, Godfather, no segment. Weather report at Seattle, no segment. Outdoor stadium. What's it going to be? Windy, cold, snowy, tropical, desert-like conditions. I don't know what to prepare for. No weather report. So I was going to say, how can you turn the Ron life off? Apparently, you can. There is a bye week. Unfortunate to say this because you really think there is no turning off the Ron life. And even if you could, why would you? But this is a very makeshift podcast, as you could probably already tell from your years of following us. Whatever contribution you want, we'll put it on, man. This is your podcast as much as it is ours. This is a question trolling Ron from Eddie Eckstein. How many sacks does Trey Hendrickson have?
What's he have? 6?
5.5. Ron, the joke is Ron didn't appreciate Trey Hendrickson and how impactful his departure would be. Meanwhile, Davenport's played 1.5 games, and Cam Jordan is looking like geriatric Cam Jordan. He's playing well. I don't want to knock him, but he's getting a bit over the hill. Okay. Personal question. This is from C-Mo Chris. Give a little insight on the podcast process. Like, what's the setup before you start recording? Are you locked in a room or a closet? Do you take like a 5 minutes to compose your thoughts? Or is it more like finish eating dinner, put the kids to bed, then rush to the pod? I know y'all used to do a rundown together or something. Don't have to get that specific. Not trying to have y'all give away any earned secrets. Well,
we don't want to give away these secrets now, Sima.
Beverage of choice during pods. I think Ron used to crack a beer. There's an emoji there on how to describe it. What do the wives do while y'all are recording? A lot of questions here, Simo. All right, Jay, why don't you take a stab at this one?
You want the last 4 to my social too, Simo? We put, like George said, this is pretty makeshift. For me, it's fun just to talk to 2 of my best friends about the topic we love most, the Saints, every week. And, a lot of this stuff is just comes natural. Not to say that we don't put any preparation in. I listen to my boy Gus Cattengill, 12 to 3. He's got really good guests on there. I listen to different podcasts. I talk to George constantly throughout the week about different takes and where the Saints are at. And obviously in my head, take a little bit of inventory on what we'll talk about, what I'll talk about, but I'm not taking copious notes or anything like that throughout the week. And then as far as what my setup is, I'm currently in my living room underneath a blanket, just poured some iced coffee. We used to do all nighttime recordings of the podcast and had a beer. But for the most part now we're doing Friday morning podcast. And as we approach our mid-30s, Simo, I think that's when we're naturally a little bit more chipper and ready, instead of after we've gone through a full day, put the kids to bed and starting to record at 8:15 p.m. But for the most part, we go in the morning, and occasionally we'll have the nighttime podcast. And
Murda, I want to tell Simo one thing. I rewatch the games up to 3 times. I take 2 to 3 pages of notes each time. I send emails to Ron and Jay about those notes with all the weekly updates. So, because, Simo, we need to make sure that you are fulfilled and educated on this podcast. It comes so naturally to Jay because he's a savant with football. But for some of us, we have to put a lot of preparation in for it. So we go the extra mile for you. At least maybe some of us do. Where do we record? When the audio was really bad, it was because I would sometimes go in a small bathroom downstairs and close the door and record and turn to my own little booth. But that kind of had bad audio. Today, it's so beautiful. And maybe my tone is a bit leisurely because of it. I'm on my outside porch swinging, talking with my main man, Jay. Ron has a lot of beers during the podcast. I don't want to, critique him on his concerning bad habits and how it affects all of his components of life. So I don't really want to highlight that on the show. But if you want to reach out to Ron and maybe get him some AA contacts, I think that'd be very beneficial because
maybe the truth is 10 Friday is just a little bit too early for Ron.
Especially how his Thursday nights go. Yeah. That's of course a joke. What do the wives do while y'all are recording? They go to bed. They can't wait for the episode to come out the next morning, so they don't want any of us to spoil what we're talking about. Because you think we like doing this, but do you just consider how much our wives love the shows? Next question. This is from Derek LaRoche. Who is LSU's next head football coach?
Oh my God. I mean, sheesh. What a topic. I think they have beaten this topic to death around Louisiana, even regionally, even nationally. But it certainly deserves conversation, and one that Scott Woodard is getting paid a lot of money to be the athletic director at LSU. George, one thing I hate is these ADs get paid so much money, and then they say, yeah, we're hiring this search firm to help us hire the women's basketball coach or the college football coach. It's like, why?
Yeah, you don't need that.
That money.
You do it.
Have sense to go out there, vet these guys, and that's your guy.
Well, Jay, I don't have the answer to the next football coach. Oh, sorry, you're breaking up.
Yeah. So for me, George, let's just talk real quick. Joe Brady, not going to happen, staying in the NFL. Lane Kiffin, not happening. Mel Tucker, I don't know where that came from. James Franklin, maybe. My guy, and speaking of my brother, Cooper Patagna, shout out Coop's Corner, follow him on Instagram. He works for 247 Sports as a college football. He's one of the lead analysts on there. He does a great job. Luke Fickell is a guy at University of Cincinnati that might be a hard guy to lure down south, especially with them going to the Power Five. But he's about his business. He's done it the right way. We talk about how it's not, as LeBron would say, instant oatmeal. Look where he is 4 years later with Cincinnati. No team has come close to competing with them. You know, a little bit of a Midwestern guy, as was Nick Saban, not to compare him to the best coach of all time. But I'd like to have somebody like Luke Fickell and his stability to come down to LSU and head this team up. And it's really a great job. And as Booger McFarland said yesterday, what is the downside to coaching LSU? It's the expectations that come with this Tiger Droppings fan base. So you need somebody that can deal with that. The other guy that I would like to see have a shot that a lot of people are talking about is like a safe hire is Billy Napier. He's a guy that has had great success at Louisiana Lafayette. He's a guy that was in coaching conversations last year with Tennessee, USC. Seems like a grounded guy that, I mean, truthfully call it what it is. There's been way too much extracurricular stuff being involved with the head coaches the last two stints with Orgeron, Les Miles. I would like to see a guy like Napier who's recruited the state, who's a good ball coach, who can be here for a long time, win 10 games a year, and every now and then, hey, compete for a national championship.
I thought the whole way LSU went about this was very, very odd. To tell a guy, hey, you're going to finish the season out and then you're done. To me, okay, then you could have a galvanizing win one for the skipper season, our last hurrah, let's make it count. But when things start to go bad, the wheels are really going to fall off, and they're going to not really take Coach O seriously at that point.
The wheels are off.
I mean, they had a win last week. I thought
touchdowns in Kentucky. The wheels are off.
I thought that was a weird approach to say, hey, you're fired in 6 months. It's like, well, what are you going to get out of from there? Is he going to give you the best or the worst? Didn't really agree with that. Got to get into game predictions. What you got?
I'm going Saints 35, Seahawks 13. I really believe Saints are going to go into this with an exclamation point. They're going to show that they are competitors in the NFC. I think a lot of talk has been that we don't know who the Saints are. They're up and down. They lose to the Giants. They beat Washington. They beat New England by 2 touchdowns. Who are they? They're 8-9. They're 9-8. This is the week the Saints come out with an exclamation point with some momentum going into the Bucs game. I'm going to say Saints 35, Seahawks 13.
I predict it'll be a very wacky game. You have Jameis versus Geno Smith. And you saw last game versus Washington, you saw Jameis revert back to full Ron Jameis. And I don't know if you can get him back to skittish Jameis. And you have full Ron Jameis going up against Geno Smith. To me, that's a recipe for wackiness, turnovers, wild game. And there'll be six or more turnovers this game. Yet, the Saints have an identity. When the going gets tough, they know the way to win. The Seahawks do not currently. Therefore, it'll be a wacky game. We're not going to run away with it. But come the fourth quarter, we'll have a 9+ point lead and walk off with a 30-20 win. You heard it here first. And guys, we're not at full strength. We're like the Saints before the bye. Just get me to the bye. Next week, we're going to have our UTO promoter. We're going to have full weather report, full Ron back, and of course your old stalwarts, Jay and yours truly. Guys, thank you for staying with us. Thank you for listening. And however you want to contribute, send it in. You think I'm being funny, you can just mumble and make some silly noises. We'll put it on. Go ahead. What you got? We'll put it on.
Everybody's got a voice. And hey, beautiful October fall weekend. Live this life, have fun. We got Oktoberfest coming up. We got Jazz Fest is canceled, but don't let it get you down. Go out there, have fun, enjoy a weekend before the Saints play on Monday night. We love you guys. We appreciate everybody that listens to this show, and we welcome all feedback. And with that, uptown folks, like, yeah. Downtown folks, take us out. Let's go, Georgie.
Super Bowl!
All right, what's up there, Ron Nation? Back again with the Godfather after a disastrous Week 6. We got crushed, but let's not cry over spilled milk. All right. Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals, they're a very good team. However, the Baltimore Ravens are a better team. Baltimore's laying 6.5 at home. It's a divisional bout. But with the way Lamar Jackson's playing, we're going to go against the money, the public money. We're going with the Ravens. We're laying 6.5. Out to Las Vegas with that interim coach. He's doing some things. I like what I see. We're going to lay the 3 with the Las Vegas Raiders. Ultimate look-ahead spot for Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're laying 12.5 at home against the Bears. They got the big divisional matchup next weekend at the Dome. We're going to take those points with Justin Fields and the Bears. We're going to get 12.5. We're going with the Bears. Dirty Birds. Not so much a bet on the Dirty Birds, but the Dolphins stink. They're terrible. Dirty Birds, 2.5. We're going to lay them. Dirty Birds going to win. Finally, let's go to Monday night. We're not talking point spreads here. We're talking totals. We got 43, 42.5, depending on what you're looking at. If you remember the game with Teddy Bridgewater a couple of years ago, Saints ran the ball, controlled the clock, played great defense on the road, got out of there with the win. It's exactly what you're going to see Monday night. I hesitate laying the 4.5. The back door is going to be open for a late cover when the Saints are playing prevent, just trying to run the clock out. But I like the Saints maybe 21-17, under 43. That's the bet. That's all 5. Now back to the executive committee of Ron Nation, Jansen, George, and Ron.